There's this quote by Maya Angelou that I saw that I absolutely love. She said, "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it." Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Life Lessons with Laura. My name is Loretta Gerard, and on this space we like to have open, honest, authentic, heart-to-heart conversations on love, life, faith, womanhood, and pretty much everything in between. So if you are listening to this podcast or watching my video for the very first time, you are most welcome. Thank you for choosing to hang out with me today. And if you are a returning listener, a subscriber, thank you. You deserve a gift very soon. Anyway, so today, as you can see, I'm wearing pink because I want to talk about something that pertains to womanhood, and it's a bit touchy for me, and it's a hard thing to discuss because it requires vulnerability, which is a hard thing to do. But I've been brooding on this for a while, and I just thought this might be the right time to share it. I think it's important to share it. And one of the reasons why I thought to talk about this is because I think that there are a lot of women out there who are broken and who are living out of that state of brokenness, and who have been traumatized and sexually traumatized and are living their lives based on that sexual trauma that they experienced. So today I want to talk about healing from sexual abuse, because I think that it's an important topic. It's a critical topic to discuss. And I'm just going to throw some statistics at you because I want that to serve as a premise or a foundation for why I think this is a critical subject to discuss. Here it says that approximately 1 in 3 women worldwide have experienced physical and or sexual violence. Approximately 1 in 3 women globally have experienced some kind of sexual violence. That is shocking. It means that if there are 3 women here, it's possible that at least one of them has experienced sexual violence at some point in her life, right? And that's a global statistic. And I also saw here that sexual violence against children is pervasive, and in sub-Saharan Africa, where I'm from, it has the highest number of victims, the highest number of sexual violence against children, right? And that is such a shocking statistic as well. And it says here that globally, over 370 million girls and women have experienced childhood sexual assault. Guys, let's talk about this. I think, let me just start, because I'm not going to come on here and talk about something that I know nothing about, or something that I haven't personally experienced, right? And I don't want to say I'm a statistic. I don't want to call myself a statistic. But what I'm going to say is that I too have experienced my own share of sexual violence, childhood sexual violence. And I know for a fact that so many women, I mean, you heard that statistic, 1 in 3 women globally have experienced sexual violence. Some people from their partners, some people even from their fathers, some people from a neighbor, some people from a pastor, some people from a Sunday school teacher, some people from their own school teachers, from their cousins, uncle, brother, even sister. It is such it is so pervasive that I think that at some point women kind of get used to it. And I'll tell you this, I think that we've gotten to a point where people don't like to talk about it. They kind of talk it like somewhere in their minds and then just choose to forget about it. And I'm not saying that you should rehash what has happened to you, but I think that healing is important. And for a lot of women, they think that they've healed, but they've not. And that healing is what I want to discuss. How do you heal from sexual trauma? How do you heal from being violated? Maybe as a child or maybe as a teenager. Some women have experienced this multiple times, right from their childhood up until their adulthood, that it has become sort of their identity. And if you're watching this right now and you were sexually abused, maybe as a child or maybe as a teenager, the first thing that I need you to understand is that it is not your fault. It is not your fault. And I think it is important to highlight this, because one of the things that happens when you're sexually abused is you kind of internalize that, and you kind of erroneously believe that it is your fault. You take on that guilt as if you did something wrong. And that guilt can be damaging. That guilt can disrupt your life. It can destroy your life if you don't deal with it. You find out that a lot of the decisions that you are making is as a result of that guilt, or as a result of you internalizing that pain and you believing that you had something to do with it. So the first thing that I would say is, it is not your fault. It is not your fault. You did not deserve what happened to you. That is the first step. That is the first step. Actually believing that you did not deserve what happened to you. Another reason why I think that this is an important topic to talk about is, I feel like a lot of women have decided to hide it or pretend that it never happened. I saw a comment where someone was talking about her sexual abuse. I think it happened to her as a child, and somebody commented and said, I've decided to forget about all that. I don't even remember. I just pretend that it never happened and just move on. But you see, pretending doesn't heal you. Pretending that something didn't happen doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And it doesn't stop the effects of that situation or that experience from impacting your life. If you would go back and just introspect, go back, reflect on some of the decisions that you have made, maybe some of the mistakes that you have made, and some of the ways that, and even if you look at your life currently, and so at some of the decisions that you're making, at your perspective to life, if you look closely, you would find that you will probably find traces of the effects of what happened to you in the way that you see life, in the way that you see people, in the way that you see men, in the way that you see relationships, the way that you see marriage, the way you see friendships. What I'm trying to say is that it does have an impact. No matter how much you try to pretend that it didn't happen, no matter how much you try to forget that it happened, it does have an impact. It has an effect. So what you have to do is not pretend that it did not happen. What you need to do is to admit that it happened. The first step to healing is to acknowledge that something happened. To admit that it happened. That's the first step. Expose it. Bring it to the light. And when I say expose it, I don't mean take a microphone and start announcing to the whole wide world, or go to your church and say, testimony time. I have to I want to talk about what happened to me when I was 2 years old. No, that's not what I'm saying. Not everyone is going to have the courage to come up here and say, this happened to me. When I say come up here, I mean, not everyone is going to have the courage to say publicly that this happened to them, right? And not everyone should. It's not something that you say just for to get people's adulation or people's praise or their pity. No, this is about your healing. This is not about public approval or validation or pity. This is about your healing. And so when I say expose, what I mean is that you expose it to yourself. You expose it to God. It doesn't mean that God didn't see it. It means that now you are bringing it to Him and you are asking Him to heal you. Right? You are acknowledging that you can't deal with this or the impacts of this. You are acknowledging that you know that if you don't heal this thing, it's going to ruin you. You are acknowledging that you need the grace of God to deal with it. So when I say expose it, I mean bring it to the light. Bring it to the light of God. Expose it to God and let Him heal you. That's the first step. You can't heal what you don't confront. You need to come face to face with it and say, yeah, this happened, right? But I'm not going to let it determine the outcome of my life. Pretending that it did not happen is allowing it to fester. It's just like when you have a wound and you keep covering it. You don't treat it. You don't take antibiotics or whatever it is that the doctor says you should do to take proper care of it. You just cover it up and just allow it fester. It's going to morph into something worse, right? So confront it. Sit face to face with it. Expose it to God. The Lord He heals. The Bible says that God heals the brokenhearted. He binds up their wounds. That is something. God is able to do something that no human being can do. He can reach deep into your heart and heal emotional wounds. He can do it. So expose it to God and let Him heal you. The second thing that I would say is to detach your identity from it. For me personally, for a very long time, I always attached my identity to what happened to me. And so I would say, oh, I'm not a good person because that happened to me. I'm not deserving of love because that happened to me. I don't deserve joy and happiness because that happened to me. No. Now I've come to realize that I can't detach myself from it. Right? Because already I have admitted that this happened. I have exposed it to God. So now I believe what God says. God says that I'm a new creation. The old has gone. The new has come. I'm no longer that person. It's just like looking for someone in an address where they no longer live at. I don't live there anymore. I'm not that person anymore. So my identity is not tied to what happened to me. Your identity is not tied to what happened to you. It's not tied to that sexual abuse. It should not be tied to it. You can change the course of your life. You can decide that will no longer be my label. I will not label myself as someone who was sexually abused anymore. I will not. Because God has taken that away from me. God has healed me, or God is healing me. Right? I choose to detach myself from that. That is no longer my identity. I'm a new person. Right? And so because of that, I will not allow what happened to me impact my view of life or my view of myself, how I see myself, how I relate to people, how I relate to the world around me. I'm not going to let that one incident or those series of incidents determine or negatively impact what happens in my life, negatively impact how I deal with and relate with other people. I'm not going to let it steal my joy. I'm not going to let it steal my peace. I'm not going to allow it ruin my life. I'm not going to allow it impact the decisions that I make. I'm not going to make decisions based on what happened to me. I'm not going to view life, view relationships, view friendships based on what happened to me. Trust me, there are women that because of what happened to them, maybe they were assaulted, maybe by someone in authority, maybe by their boss, or maybe by their father, or something, and that is sad. But because of that, it impacts how they relate with people in authority. They just don't value authority. They're very insolent. But the truth is that if you continue to behave that way simply because of what happened to you, you're going to ruin your life. You're going to let that incident and what that person did to you impact your life, ruin it. That person is going to win. You are giving that person power that they don't deserve. You are giving the abuser power over you, over your life. Don't do that. Don't let the guilt should not be on you. The guilt should be on the person who committed the offense. So why are you letting another person's decision ruin your life? Yeah, you were the victim, but you cannot continue to be a victim forever. You have to take charge of your healing. You have to take charge of your responsibility. Don't let the abuser win. Don't. And you let the abuser win when you make decisions based on what happened to you. When you decide that all men has come because of what happened to you, because somebody abused you as a child, you decide all men has come, and you treat every single man that comes your way as come. You're disrespectful. You're not accountable in relationships. You just decide, you just do as you please. You feel like love is nothing. You feel like love means nothing. You don't pour into your relationship. You don't feel like you should be committed to a relationship because you feel all men has come because of what happened to you. You're going to ruin your life. And if you do that, it means the abuser won. The predator won. Don't do that to yourself. God has made you free. Stay free. He has cleansed you. If you believe in Jesus, you are cleansed. He has washed you in his blood. The old has gone. You have a chance to rewrite your story, because God no longer God sees you. He sees you as someone without blemish, without fault. So live as someone who is free, because you are free. That leads me to the next point, and I've touched on this briefly. Free yourself from the guilt of it. And I know that for me, I carried that guilt for a long time because I kept feeling it was my fault. No, it wasn't. It's not your fault. The guilt should be on the person who hurt you, not on you. It's not your fault. It is not your fault. It is never the fault of the victim. I don't care what anyone says. It is never the fault of the victim. You don't blame the victim for what happened to them, right? Especially when it comes to sexual abuse. It is not your fault. God has, to be honest, if this person who abused you decided to give their life to Christ and is now in Christ, guess what? God has forgiven the person. That person is now walking around without any guilt, any shame, because they have been cleansed. And you have decided to still carry guilt. Don't do that. Life is too short. Because if, God forbid, that person goes to heaven after giving their life to Christ, they're going to heaven. Yeah, I know. It is sad, annoying, but it's the truth. So, why do you want to give yourself stress? Please free yourself of the guilt. God has made you free. Be free. And the third thing that I would say is, I think I've said more than 3 things, but another thing that I would say is choose a different outcome. Choose a different outcome. There's this quote by Maya Angelou that I saw that I absolutely love. She said, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. Refuse to be reduced by what happened to you. Refuse it. Bind it. Cancel it. Neutralize it. Choose a different outcome. You can't choose. I'm getting teary because this is so dear to my heart. And I'm really hoping, I'm praying that the Lord touches you. That I'm really hoping and praying that as you watch this, that you can feel like how much I really want you to heal. Choose a different outcome. You can choose. You can choose to say, look, this may have happened to me, but I will not let it ruin me. And I've said this a million times. Choose healing. Do whatever you need to do to heal. Choose healing. Take the steps for healing. Read books. Journal if that's your thing. Pray. Cry. Speak to a therapist. Choose healing. Choose life. It's just like what the Bible says, that I've set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. But choose life so that you and your descendants might live. Choose life. Choose life. Choose life. Choose to not be reduced by what happened to you. Choose that your life would be it will be a completely different outcome. Even if the devil wanted to end you, he wanted to destroy you, he wanted to break you, destroy your self-esteem, erode your sense of self-worth. He wanted you to feel like you are nothing, so that you can continue to make bad decisions to destroy the life that God gave you, to destroy the beautiful, prosperous future that God has for you. Choose that you will not let him win. Choose to not let him win. Choose to win. Choose the victory that you have in God. Choose life. Choose healing. And that takes me to my final point. Take the healing process into your hand. Look, healing is a lifelong journey. You don't get to a place say, yes, no, it's a lifelong journey. It's going to take you your whole life. But guess what? Like I always say, the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. It's for you to make sure that you are making progress every single day. Take your healing into your hands. If you can afford a therapist, please do therapy. I am 100% pro therapy. I've had therapy and I preach therapy. Therapy is great. Therapy is a gift from God because it helps you to unburden yourself. Sometimes you don't have anyone to talk to about these things. And just talking to a therapist, just unburdening that, and then if you have a good therapist, then they give you some inner work to do. They give you some activities that you can do to just work on your inner self. It helps. So if you can afford it, I beg you, do it. Do it. Read books. Read books that help you deal with this. And I'll tell you one thing that has helped me, Joyce Meyer, because of course, if you know Joyce Meyer's story, she was sexually abused by her father for a very long time, and she talks about this. So if you can listen to sermons by Joyce Meyer, you can read her books, because it helps you see that you're not the only person who has gone through this. Again, like I said, 1 in 3 women globally have experienced some kind of sexual violence in their life. So it is not just a you problem. It is something that is pervasive. There are so many people walking the face of the earth who have been through this, who have overcome, who have healed, who are living their best lives, regardless of what has happened to them. Right? So read books that help you with your inner child. Read books that help you to restore your confidence. Read books that help you to value yourself more. Listen to sermons, again by Joyce Meyer, because she has a similar story and you can relate with, because of that, you might be able to relate with what she has to say. But yeah, take your healing into your hands. Okay? I just wanted to jump on here to talk about this because this is something that is really close to my heart, and I really want to see so many women walking in healing, walking in freedom, walking in the freedom that Christ has given to us, that in the freedom that Christ and the blessings that Christ has given to us. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you're a man listening to this and maybe the woman in your life has experienced something like this would be something that you can share with her. I'm sure that she would find it helpful and insightful. So, on that note, thank you so much for listening. If you really found this insightful, you can leave a comment and let me know if you're feeling brave and you have extra thoughts that you can share with someone out there who may have experienced sexual abuse. If you have a word of encouragement to say to someone, please leave it in the comment. You might be encouraging someone. You never know. Your words might just be what someone else needs to hear. So if you're feeling brave and you have a word of encouragement, please leave a comment and encourage someone. All right, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, what are you waiting for, my dear? Please subscribe and hit the like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification and hit the notification bell so that you are notified whenever I have a new video up. Thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with me. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.